When money lands in your hands, what's the first thing you think about? Be brutally honest with yourself. The moment your paycheck hits your account, the instant that commission clears, what's the very first thought that comes to your mind? Is it something like, finally, I can treat myself? I worked hard all month, I deserve a little splurge. Time to upgrade my phone, buy those shoes, go on that weekend getaway. If that's your default reaction, then it's no mystery why your money disappears as fast as it arrives. And here's the kicker. It doesn't even feel wrong. In fact, it feels perfectly justified. You've earned it. You've sacrificed your time, energy, and patience. Why shouldn't you spend it on yourself? You tell yourself, what's the point of making money if I can't enjoy it? I only live once. Saving it won't change anything. I'll worry about investing later. Right now, I need this. It sounds reasonable. It sounds fair. It even sounds empowering. But that mindset is the reason you stay broke. Now let's look at the other side. When the rich receive money, their thought process is completely different. They don't ask, what can I buy? They ask, where can I grow this? Not because they're stingy, not because they don't enjoy life, but because they understand something most people don't. Money should not end with you. It should begin with you. If it dies in your wallet, it never fulfilled its purpose. The rich don't see money as a reward, they see it as a seed. Every dollar is a chance to multiply. A tool, a soldier, a worker. Something that, if treated right, can bring more back to you without your hands lifting another finger. Poor people look at money and think, what can this buy me today? Rich people look at money and ask, what can this become tomorrow? That single shift in thinking creates entirely different futures. Let this truth hit you hard. The way you think the moment money reaches you determines whether you'll build wealth or burn it. If your first instinct is to spend, you're feeding the habit of living paycheck to paycheck. If your first instinct is to grow, you're feeding the muscle that builds financial independence. And that instinct is not something you're born with. It's something you train. So ask yourself now and answer honestly. What does money mean to me? A moment of pleasure or a future of freedom? Because how you answer that is exactly why you're stuck or on your way out. The spending loop, why you stay broke no matter how much you earn. Let's break something to you, and it may hurt. Your income is not the reason you're broke. Your habits are. You could double your salary next month, get a raise, win a bonus, even land a big client, and still end up with nothing left. Why? Because you're trapped in a loop that looks like this. Earn, spend, wait, repeat. Month after month, year after year. Life on replay with no exit strategy. You don't even notice it anymore. It feels normal. You get paid, your bills devour half of it, the rest goes to food, comfort, quick rewards. Maybe a new gadget, maybe some nights out, and before you know it, you're back to zero. You survive, but you never build. And deep down, you know it. You feel it every time you check your account balance and realize, I worked so hard, but I have nothing to show for it. That emptiness, it's not about money. It's about purpose, about power, about direction. Here's what the rich understand. You don't build wealth by earning more. You build wealth by keeping more, by controlling the flow, not chasing the flood. If every dollar flows out as fast as it comes in, you're not managing money. You're just renting it. It's not really yours. It passes through your hands like water through a sieve. No matter how fast you scoop, you're always leaking. Most poor people don't have a money problem, they have a decision problem. Every time they earn, they feel the urge to spend, as if money has an expiration date, as if it'll rot if they don't use it now. But that's not money working for you, that's money controlling you. And here's the cruel irony. The more you try to feel rich through spending, the more you guarantee that you'll stay poor. Buying things to look successful is the fastest way to stay financially empty. You don't need more income, you need more intention. You need to step out of the loop and step into strategy. Because until you break that spending cycle, no amount of effort, hustle, or hope will set you free. Truth to remember: if your money leaves you faster than you can grow it, you're not living free, you're living on a treadmill. Delayed gratification. Why the rich postpone pleasure to accelerate growth. If you want to understand the mindset of wealth, you must understand this powerful truth. The rich are not addicted to comfort, they are addicted to growth. They don't chase pleasure, they delay it, because they know something the poor often ignore. Short-term pleasure is the enemy of long-term freedom. Let's be real. We live in a world that rewards instant gratification. Click, swipe, tap, it's all right there. Food in 15 minutes, entertainment in 3 seconds, and dopamine with every notification. So when money shows up, what do most people do? They obey the craving. They reward themselves instantly. They spend to feel rich today, even if it costs them security tomorrow. But wealth builders, they play a different game, a slower game, a smarter one. They understand that every time you delay a small reward, you give yourself a chance to earn a bigger one later. They don't buy the new car now because they'd rather buy the company that makes the car. They don't upgrade their lifestyle every time they get a raise. They upgrade their assets first. They skip the trip this year so they can own the freedom to travel anytime in the future. That's not sacrifice, that's strategy. Here's what poor people often don't see. The purpose of money is not to be used as soon as possible. It's to be multiplied. But multiplication requires time, and time requires patience. If you want your money to grow, you must give it the space to breathe. But when you keep pulling it out, to feel good, to look good, to keep up appearances, you're killing the growth before it even begins. Imagine this. You plant a seed, and every few days, you dig it up to check if it's growing. What happens? It never roots, it never sprouts, it dies. That's exactly what happens when you spend too soon. You sabotage the compounding. You abort the potential. The rich don't delay gratification because they're disciplined robots. They do it because they know the payoff is exponential. $1 today can be $10 tomorrow, but only if I don't kill it today. They're not saying no forever. They're saying not yet, so they can say yes to anything later. That's the power of delayed gratification. Let this sink in. Poor people use money to escape pressure. Rich people use pressure to create more money. One group spends to feel relief. The other waits to build resilience and results. One group asks, "What will make me feel better today?" The other asks, "What will make me freer tomorrow?" And that one shift in perspective makes all the difference between broke and wealthy. Building the foundation. Why the rich lay bricks while the poor chase days. Let's imagine for a moment that money is like building a house. Each decision you make is a brick. Each dollar you keep is a piece of cement. Each investment, a supporting wall. Now ask yourself this: am I building something that will stand, or am I just pitching a tent to survive the weather? Most people aren't building, they're reacting. Day by day, crisis by crisis, hoping the wind doesn't blow too hard this month. They live at the surface, no foundation, no structure, no long-term vision. But the wealthy? They're always building something you can't yet see. Even when they look like they're doing nothing on the outside, they're reinforcing their financial walls on the inside. They understand a truth that poor people often ignore. Survival is not the goal. Stability is, then freedom, then legacy. But it all begins with one thing: foundation. Here's the uncomfortable reality. Poor people think in days. Middle-class people think in months. Rich people think in decades. That's why their money behaves differently, because their vision is calibrated for long-term strength, not short-term relief. Let's go deeper. The poor often spend based on emotion and urgency. They need it now. They feel the pressure. They want the escape. So they patch leaks instead of fixing plumbing. They buy comforts instead of building systems. They live in reactive mode, always one paycheck away from panic. The rich are proactive. They allocate money to future problems before those problems appear. They ensure, prepare, automate, diversify. They don't just earn money. They engineer financial structures to keep that money working even when they're not. Think about this. Would you rather build a wall that protects you for life, or build a sandcastle that disappears every time the tide rolls in? Because that's what happens when you live paycheck to paycheck. Your money gets swept away before it can stand. So what do the rich actually do to build? Here's what that process looks like. Emergency fund first, because storms always come. High-value skill next, because more income equals more building blocks. Asset acquisition, property, equities, businesses. System automation, remove emotion, add consistency. Long-term compounding, reinvest gains to accelerate structure. And through it all, they're laying bricks, not buying instant sunshine, not hoping the roof holds with duct tape. They build. A powerful shift in mindset. Every dollar I keep and grow today becomes one less crisis I have to fear tomorrow. Poor people run from problems with shopping bags. Rich people face problems with blueprints and strategy. You can't buy your way out of instability, but you can build your way into control. So ask yourself, is what I'm doing today helping me survive or helping me build? If the answer is survive, you're living by the hour. But if the answer is build, you're stepping into a different class of power. Because in the end, the difference between the rich and the poor isn't how much they earn, it's what they construct from it. Making money work. How the rich turn every dollar into an employee. Most people work for money. The rich, they make money work for them. This isn't just a catchy phrase, it's a philosophy, one that redefines the entire purpose of earning. Let's put it this way. To the poor, money is something to use. To the rich, money is something to deploy. Poor people see money as the reward. Rich people see money as a tool. One group says, I worked hard, now I get to spend. The other says, I worked hard, now this money gets to work for me. Every dollar they earn becomes an opportunity, not for more pleasure, but for more power, more leverage, more growth. Think of every dollar like a worker. When you spend that dollar on things that die in value, you just fired that worker. They did one tiny job, give you a moment of happiness, and they're gone forever. But when you invest that dollar, you hired that worker for life. You sent it out into the world with one mission: bring more dollars back. And if you invest smartly, that $1 can bring 5 friends back. And those 5, they can each bring 10 more. That's how the rich multiply wealth without multiplying effort. But here's the trap most people fall into. They believe they must keep working harder to get ahead. And yes, work ethic matters, but effort alone is not the answer. If working hard was all it took to be rich, every laborer, janitor, nurse, and teacher would be a millionaire. They work harder than most, but they often remain broke. Why? Because they trade time for money and then spend that money instead of multiplying it. The rich escape this trap by flipping the formula. They trade time for systems, for assets, for investments, and let those things generate money even while they sleep. Consider this truth. If your money isn't working harder than you are, you'll never be free. There are only so many hours in a day. You can only hustle so much. But your money, it doesn't get tired. It doesn't need food. It doesn't complain. It just needs one thing: direction. And that's where the poor get stuck. They never give their money a mission. They just give it away. The rich assign every dollar a role. This one buys income-producing assets. That one pays for knowledge that increases earning power. Another one goes into a diversified portfolio. That stack funds the next opportunity. This reserve protects the whole system from collapse. Nothing is random. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is idle. Even when they're not working, their money is. So here's the hard question. Is your money employed, or is it unemployed and lazy, sitting in your account, or worse, already gone? The money you don't invest is money you've left jobless, and jobless money creates jobless futures. Final takeaway for this part. The poor use money like matches for sparks of happiness. The rich use money like seeds for forests of freedom. You don't need a fortune to start. You just need a shift from seeing money as something to enjoy to seeing it as something to assign. Because when you master that mindset, you stop chasing money and start commanding it. Plug the leaks. How the rich guard their wealth while the poor bleed theirs away. Here's a painful truth. You don't have to make bad decisions to stay broke. You just have to make unconscious ones. The biggest threat to your wealth isn't always one massive mistake. It's the silent leaks. The tiny expenses, the invisible habits, the money that slips through your fingers without a sound. Poor people don't just spend money, they leak it. A daily coffee here, a subscription they forgot to cancel, impulse buys on things they don't use, dining out 5 times a week because it's convenient. Individually, these seem harmless, but over time, they drain the one thing that could have made them free: financial momentum. The rich, they plug every hole. Not because they're obsessed with pennies, but because they respect the power of preservation. It's not just about how much you earn, it's about how much you keep. They track every dollar. They question every habit. They analyze every pattern because they know a small leak can sink even the biggest ship. Here's what you have to understand. Wealth is not just built by addition, it's protected by subtraction. You don't need to earn more if your money isn't running away from you. You need to hold the line. And to hold the line, you must become brutally aware of where your money is escaping.
Ask yourself, how many of your monthly expenses are essential versus emotional? Are you paying for convenience at the cost of control? Are you earning money just to keep feeding habits that leave you empty? Because for most people, the enemy is not income. The enemy is leakage. Here's how the rich handle it differently. They review their finances regularly. Not once a year, not when things go wrong, consistently. They automate discipline. Bills, savings, investments, all scheduled, all intentional. They eliminate waste fast. If it doesn't produce value or joy, it's cut, no hesitation. They know the difference between cost and consequence. A $5 daily habit may seem small until you realize it's $150 a month and $1,800 a year. Let this land hard. You are not broke because of big disasters. You're broke because of daily disobedience. Your money is obeying the habits you've created, not the goals you claim to have. If your habits say spend, your goals don't stand a chance. The rich know that discipline is defense. And without defense, wealth is temporary, no matter how fast it comes. They're not paranoid, they're prepared. Because they understand something most people don't. Your future is not only built by what you add, it's protected by what you don't lose. So take a hard look at your life. Where am I leaking? What do I keep paying for that adds no value? What comforts today are costing me freedom tomorrow? Plug those leaks. Not someday, now. Because until you do, every dollar you earn will continue to vanish, quietly, invisibly, fatally.
Redefining spending. Why the rich don't just buy things, they buy purpose. Let's get one thing straight. The rich do spend money. They buy homes, travel first class, eat at expensive restaurants, own luxury watches. But here's the catch. They don't spend to feel rich. They spend to stay rich. There's a world of difference between spending as a reaction and spending as a strategy. And this is where most people misunderstand wealth completely. The poor spend money to express how they wish to feel. Successful, respected, comfortable, deserving. They buy identity through consumption. A branded shirt to feel confident. An expensive dinner to feel important. A new gadget to feel caught up. But the feeling fades and the money's gone. The rich, however, treat spending like investing, even when it's not technically an investment. How? They ask one powerful question before parting with their money. Will this expand my future or shrink it? If the answer is expansion, they go for it. If the answer is ego, escape, or emptiness, they pause. That filter alone changes everything. Let's break it down further. Poor spending is emotional. I had a hard day, I deserve this. Rich spending is intentional. Will this serve a purpose that justifies its cost? Here's how rich people categorize spending. Growth spending. Courses, coaching, tools, books, networks, anything that increases capacity, income, or leverage. This expense will make me better. Stability spending. Insurance, estate planning, home security, legal protection. This expense protects what I've built. Efficiency spending. Assistance, software, time-saving tools. This expense buys back my time or energy. Joy spending. Vacations, fine dining, gifts, but only after the first three are handled. This expense rewards my discipline, not replaces it. That's the hierarchy. And that's why their money lasts longer, because every dollar has a job, not just a feeling.
Poor people mix those up. They prioritize joy first, avoid growth because it costs too much, skip protection, and complain about inefficiency. They don't realize it's not how much you spend, it's what your spending builds or breaks. Let this truth hit deep. Every dollar you spend is either planting a tree or starting a fire. Are you building shade for the future or just creating smoke for today? Because most people are burning money without even realizing it. They think they're rewarding themselves, but they're removing options from their future. It's not about guilt. It's about alignment. Spending isn't evil. Spending without strategy is. The rich buy things too, but they buy with intent, clarity, and control. They don't just spend to feel good. They spend to live well, without regret. So before you make your next purchase, ask, will this grow me? Will this protect me? Will this buy back my time? Or am I just chasing a feeling that will vanish by morning? Because when you start spending like the rich, you stop trying to look successful and start becoming powerful.
Escaping the pressure. Why the rich don't spend to impress, and the poor can't stop. Let's talk about one of the most expensive addictions in modern society: the need to look successful. It's everywhere. On social media, in your friend group, in your neighborhood, and most dangerously, in your own head. The pressure to appear like you've made it is quietly draining millions of people into a lifetime of financial slavery. Most poor and middle-class individuals don't overspend because they're greedy. They overspend because they're trying to signal something. They want to be seen as capable, worthy, attractive, important. So they buy the car they can't afford. They wear brands that mean more to others than to themselves. They travel to places for photos, not peace. And they do it all to maintain a version of themselves that looks rich while quietly becoming broke. The rich don't play that game. Why? Because they already know who they are. They don't need to perform wealth. They're too busy building it. You can either look rich or be rich, but chasing both usually gets you neither. Let's go deeper. Poor people often confuse approval with progress. They think likes, compliments, or social praise means they're doing well. But wealth doesn't care about opinions. Wealth cares about decisions. The rich don't buy to impress. They buy to advance. They don't seek applause. They seek outcomes. And when you live to impress others, here's what really happens. You buy things you don't need, with money you don't have, to impress people who don't care. And you sacrifice freedom for validation. That is the trade of a lifetime, and not in a good way. Meanwhile, the rich are okay with looking boring. They drive used cars. They wear simple clothes. They say no to dinners, parties, and hype. Not because they're cheap, but because they're focused. They know every dollar spent to look the part is one less dollar they can use to become the part. Here's a reality most people ignore. Looking rich is a liability. Being rich is an asset. One demands constant upkeep. The other creates permanent security. One makes you dependent on trends. The other makes you independent of them. And guess what? The people you're trying to impress, they're trying to impress someone else. It's an endless loop, a race to nowhere. A competition where the prize is nothing. The rich don't enter that race. They exit it.
because they value control over perception. So here's the question you need to ask yourself. Am I spending money to feel powerful or to avoid feeling invisible? Because one builds you, the other breaks you slowly. Bottom line for this part, the poor chase image. The rich chase impact. The poor spend money to be seen. The rich use money to build things that last even when no one is looking. You don't need validation to succeed. You need vision. You need a plan. And you need to be brave enough to disappoint people while you build something greater than they can understand.
Track or bleed? Why the rich know where every dollar goes and the poor look away. Here's a brutal truth. If you don't tell your money where to go, it will leave without asking. And that's exactly what happens to most people. Not because they're stupid, but because they're afraid to look. Poor people avoid their bank statements. They dread opening their financial apps. They wait until bills are due to face reality. They operate on hope instead of data. Why? Because deep down, they know the truth will hurt. Seeing the numbers means seeing the waste, the leaks, the bad decisions. And that level of honesty, it's uncomfortable. But guess what? Avoidance is expensive. Awareness is empowering. The rich choose awareness every time. Wealthy people don't treat their money emotionally. They treat it like a business. They track, they review, they adjust. Not once a year, not only when they're broke. They do it consistently because they respect the numbers. What gets measured gets improved. What gets ignored gets worse. That's not just a quote, that's a law. Here's what most poor people never do and what rich people never skip. Budgeting with clarity. Every dollar has a job. Nothing floats. Weekly or monthly reviews, not to punish themselves, but to stay in control. Categorizing spending. Needs, wants, investments, liabilities, all separate. Setting limits and rules. Emotional spending is blocked by structure. Using tools, apps, spreadsheets, software, they automate self-awareness. Here's the difference. Poor people say, I think I'm okay this month. Rich people say, I know where every dollar went and what it did for me. That one mindset shift takes you from chaos to command. Let this land. If your money is a mystery, your future is a gamble. And you don't build wealth by guessing. You build wealth by managing what you already have, no matter how small. People say, I'll manage money when I make more. But that's backwards. You don't get more money to become responsible. You become responsible, and that's why you get more money. If you can't manage $1,000, you won't magically manage $10,000. More money without discipline equals more destruction. That's why lottery winners go broke. That's why high earners end up drowning in debt. Tracking isn't controlling, it's freeing. When you know where your money is going, you don't live in fear. You live with clarity. You make decisions with confidence. You invest with logic instead of panic. So ask yourself, do you know what you spent last week? Do you know what categories bleed the most? Do you know how much you really save, not just what you claim? If not, then you're flying blind in a storm. And storms are only dangerous when you don't know where you are. Final truth for this part. The poor look away because they're scared of what they'll find. The rich look closely because that's where their power lives. If you want to change your life, start with one habit. Track everything. Not for guilt, but for growth. Because what you don't track will quietly destroy you. Investing beyond money. How the rich build wealth through skills, health, and networks first. When most people hear the word invest, they think about stocks, real estate, crypto, businesses. But the richest people in the world didn't start by buying assets. They started by becoming one. Here's the truth no one teaches. Before you invest in money-making things, you must invest in the money-making version of yourself. And that's exactly what the rich do differently. They see themselves, their mind, their health, their skills, their relationships as the first and most powerful asset. Poor people wait until they have extra money to learn. Rich people learn first, so they never run out of money. The poor say, "I'll invest when I have more." The rich say, "I'll invest in me, so I'll always have more." That's the difference. That's the foundation. Let's break down the 3 invisible investments the rich always make. 1. Skill investment, the money multiplier. The fastest way to grow your income isn't a side hustle. It's upgrading what you can do. Learn to negotiate better. Master a high-income skill. Understand your industry deeper than anyone around you. Become irreplaceable. You don't get paid for your time. You get paid for the value your time delivers. The poor keep trading hours. The rich increase value per hour, then scale it. That shift alone can multiply your income without working more. 2. Health investment, the energy engine. The wealthy know if your body breaks, your empire crumbles. They eat well, they move, they sleep, not for vanity, for performance. Poor people often neglect health until it becomes a crisis. Rich people protect it like it's their bank account, because it is. What's the point of wealth if you're too tired, too sick, or too stressed to enjoy it? You are the machine, and machines need maintenance. 3. Relationship investment, the opportunity web. The poor network to get something. The rich network to create something. They build trust. They bring value. They play long-term games. One connection can unlock capital. One introduction can lead to a deal. One mentor can collapse 10 years of learning into one. Your net worth is a reflection of your network, not in size, but in strength. Poor people isolate. Rich people collaborate. They understand that no empire is built alone. So here's what you must ask yourself. Am I spending hours scrolling or sharpening my mind? Am I investing in my body or abusing it for cheap dopamine? Am I surrounding myself with anchors or elevators? Because you don't need money to start investing. You just need a new definition of what wealth truly is. Wealth isn't just digits in an account. It's the capacity to create, to sustain, and to multiply. And that capacity starts inside, not outside. Final takeaway for this part? Don't chase assets. Become the kind of person assets chase. Because when you're valuable, opportunities seek you. Capital finds you. Success follows you. That's the real investment the rich make, and it's the one that never crashes, never inflates, never disappears.
Generational thinking. Why the rich plan for legacies while the poor plan for Fridays. Let's zoom out. Way out. Because the difference between the poor and the rich isn't just how they spend, it's how far ahead they're looking. Poor people think in paychecks. Rich people think in generations. One is counting down to Friday. The other is building for people they'll never even meet. This is a brutal but freeing truth. You can't build lasting wealth with short-term vision. But that's how most people live. I just need to get through this week. As long as I pay rent this month, I'm fine. I'll worry about savings later. They live in survival mode, thinking small, thinking now, thinking only for themselves. And the result? Nothing they build lasts, because they never gave it a future. The wealthy, on the other hand, build systems that outlive them. They don't just make money, they design structures. Trusts, businesses, real estate portfolios, education funds. values and principles passed down to their children. Their money has a mission that extends far beyond personal comfort. I want my children's children to benefit from the decisions I make today. That's wealth. That's vision. That's legacy thinking. Poor people often say, "I don't have time to think that far." But the truth is, you can't afford not to. Because if you don't build a future, you'll be stuck fixing the present over and over again. Let's go deeper. Legacy is not about ego. It's about responsibility. You don't need to be a millionaire to think like the wealthy. You just need to start asking a different kind of question. Will this decision still matter in 5 years? Will my children thank me for this choice? Am I passing down tools or just trauma? Because every financial habit you have, you're silently teaching to the next generation. They see how you handle money. They copy it, even if you never say a word. The rich don't just leave behind money, they leave behind mindsets. That's why so many wealthy families stay wealthy, not because of luck, but because of systems, standards, and stewardship. They don't just earn, they educate, they elevate, they extend their influence through time. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to wait until you're rich to start thinking like this. You just have to care about what comes after you. Because when you shift from me and now to us and next, your decisions change. Your spending changes. Your urgency grows. Your distractions shrink. You stop living for weekends. You start building for decades. Final takeaway for this part: poor people build for escape. Rich people build for endurance. One builds to breathe this month. The other builds to breathe life into others, even when they're gone. And that's the kind of wealth that never dies.
Consumer versus creator. Are you using money or building with it? Let's ask the question no one dares to ask out loud. Are you a consumer or a creator? Most people think they're in control of their money, but the truth is they're just consuming. Consuming income, consuming ads, consuming content, consuming what others tell them to want, to buy, to chase. And because they're consuming, they're not creating anything of value that lasts. Here's what poor and middle-class individuals rarely realize. If all your money ever does is go toward experiences and objects, then nothing you're doing is compounding. Your life becomes a cycle of input and output with no residue, no leverage, no legacy. That's the trap. You earn to spend. You work to reward. You grind just to go back to zero. And worse, you start to think that's normal. Now, contrast that with the wealthy. They may consume like anyone else, but their primary identity is not as a spender. It's as a builder, a producer, a creator of value. Their money doesn't just leave. It plants, it multiplies, it constructs. They aren't just thinking, what can I get with this? They're thinking, what can I build with this? What system can this fund? What asset can this create? What advantage can this generate over time? That's a fundamental shift from momentary pleasure to long-term production. Ask yourself, does your money make more money? Does your money build anything while you sleep? Does your money work after you've spent it? Or does it die at the point of purchase? Because if your answer is no to all three, you're not using money, you're using yourself. You're burning your own energy and time over and over just to finance a lifestyle that keeps you busy, but not free. The rich understand something most don't. Wealth isn't created by what you buy. It's created by what you build that keeps building without you. They don't trade time for dollars. They build systems, portfolios, brands, and assets that earn while they sleep, think, rest, or vacation.
That's not luck. That's not privilege. That's intention. And it's not out of reach for you. You don't need $1 million to become a creator. You just need to start treating every dollar like a tool, not a toy. A dollar can be a seed, or it can be candy. You choose what it becomes, and that choice, repeated daily, determines your wealth trajectory. Let this truth hit you deep. Poor people spend their money. Rich people assign it. Poor people use money to reward their struggle. Rich people use money to escape the need for struggle. So, which one are you? A consumer of comfort or a creator of wealth? One fades, one multiplies, and the decision is yours every single time you open your wallet.
System thinking. Why the rich design their cash flow while the poor react to life. Most people don't have a financial system. They have a series of reactions. I got paid, I pay bills, I buy what I want, I wait for the next paycheck. That's not strategy, that's survival. And as long as you're stuck in survival mode, you'll never have the space to build anything meaningful. Poor and middle-class people live transaction to transaction. Every financial decision is isolated, emotional, and urgent. What do I owe this month? What can I afford today? If I have anything left, maybe I'll save. There's no long-term plan, no automation, no consistency, just reaction and exhaustion. But the rich, they don't react to money. They design how money moves. They build systems that make wealth creation automatic. And that one shift changes everything. What is a system? A system is when your money knows where to go before you have to think about it. It's a flow, a structure, a blueprint. You earn, your system allocates. You don't guess, you don't delay, you don't rely on willpower. The system runs whether you feel motivated or not. Here's how it looks in real life. A portion of income is automatically invested every month. Savings happen without you lifting a finger. Bills are paid on time, automatically. Emergency funds are in place. Budgets are preset, not post-regretted. That's not discipline, that's design. The rich don't make better decisions because they're smarter. They make fewer emotional decisions because they've built systems that do the work for them. Consider this. Poor people say, I'll save whatever's left. Rich people say, I'll spend whatever's left after I've invested and saved. Same income, different order, radically different future. Because money without a system always disappears. Systems also protect you from chaos. Life will throw curveballs. Unexpected expenses, job changes, health emergencies. Poor people fall apart because there's no structure to hold them. The rich, they bounce back faster because the system catches them. That's the difference between fragile money and resilient wealth. And no, you don't need a huge income to build a system. You just need consistency. Even if you earn $500 a month, you can build a microsystem. 10% to savings, 10% to learning, 10% to investing, 70% to essential living. Review it monthly and refine. That alone puts you ahead of 90% of people. Final truth for this part. The poor chase results. The rich build systems that deliver results on autopilot. If you have to manually force every good financial habit, you'll eventually burn out. But if you design the process, wealth becomes a byproduct, not a struggle. Automation over emotion. Why the rich use systems to override feelings. Most people believe they're bad with money because they lack discipline. But that's not the full truth. It's not discipline they're missing, it's automation. Because even the most disciplined person gets tired, gets emotional, gets distracted. And if your entire financial future relies on your mood, you're playing a dangerous game. Let's get real. There will be days you feel lazy. There will be months when temptations scream louder than your goals.
There will be stress, boredom, excitement, all of which trigger spending. That's normal. That's human. But here's where the rich set themselves apart. They don't try to fight emotion every time. They remove emotion from the equation. How? Automation. The rich automate their good decisions, so they don't have to make them again and again and again. They automate investing. They automate savings. They automate payments. They automate budget caps. They automate reminders and reviews. They turn success into a system, not a battle of willpower. That's how you win in the long game. Let's break this down. Poor people say, "I'll save what I can at the end of the month." Result? There's nothing left to save. Rich people say, "I'll automate my savings at the beginning of the month." Result? They always save no matter how they feel. Think of automation as financial muscle memory. You don't debate with yourself. You don't delay. You don't negotiate with the voice in your head saying, "Maybe just this once," because the system already made the decision for you. Why does this matter? Because your feelings are inconsistent, but your future requires consistency. You can't build wealth on a foundation of, "I'll do it when I feel like it." Wealth demands that you act right, even when your emotions want to act wrong. And automation makes that possible. It also removes shame. So many people feel guilty about failing financially, but it's not failure, it's fatigue, it's emotional overwhelm, it's decision exhaustion. Automation takes that off your plate. You don't need 100% self-control. You just need a process that runs even when your motivation dies. The rich don't trust themselves to be perfect. They build systems to compensate for being human. Poor people trust emotion. Rich people trust process. That's why the poor try, but the rich win. So ask yourself, what decisions am I forcing myself to make every month? What if I just made them once and automated the rest? What part of my financial life could I remove emotion from today? Because the more you automate, the less you self-sabotage. And the less you self-sabotage, the faster your wealth compounds. Final truth for this part: discipline feels like pain. Automation feels like freedom. Don't rely on willpower, build a machine. And let that machine carry you when your feelings can't.
Time leverage. Why the rich don't trade hours for dollars. Here's a trap most people don't see until it's too late. You can always make more money, but you can't make more time. And yet, most people trade the most limited resource they have, time, for the thing that's most replaceable, money. They sell their hours one by one, hoping to save enough to live. But the clock doesn't stop, and life doesn't wait. That's why poor and middle-class people often spend 40 years working, only to retire with just enough to survive, not enough to be free. Now let's flip the lens. The rich don't sell time. They buy it back. They understand that the goal is not to work forever. The goal is to build machines, assets, and systems that make money without their constant presence. Here's what rich people know that poor people often forget. You can earn back lost money. You can never earn back lost time. So while the poor work longer hours to earn more, the rich invest in leverage, so their time creates more value than effort ever could. Let's break that down. 3 types of leverage the rich use. 1. Money leverage. They use capital to generate more capital. Investments, businesses, real estate. Money works while they sleep. 2. People leverage. They delegate, outsource, hire. Instead of doing everything, they build teams. They trade money for freedom of focus. 3. Technology leverage. They use tools, software, automation. One digital product can sell 1,000 times. One online system can serve clients 24/7. All of this means I don't need to be present to profit. That's how freedom is created. Poor people are taught hard work is noble. And yes, effort matters,
But effort without scale leads to burnout, not wealth. The rich aren't lazy, they just choose to work on systems instead of inside them. Ask yourself, are you building something that can work without you? Or are you stuck in a loop where money only comes when you show up? Because if your income depends entirely on your presence, you don't own your life, your job does. Imagine two people. One works 10 hours a day, every day for 40 years. The other builds assets for 5 years, then earns passively for 40. Both worked hard. Only one escaped the trade of time for money. And that's the difference between activity and leverage. Final truth for this part. Poor people ask, how much can I earn this hour? Rich people ask, how can I earn without this hour? Until you break the time for money equation, you'll always be busy and never truly free. The goal is not to work forever. The goal is to build something that outworks you.
Identity shift: why the rich think like owners and the poor think like victims. Here's a truth that rarely gets talked about. Your identity controls your economy. Not your job, not your degree, not even your current income. Because if deep down you see yourself as a victim, you'll act like one, with your money, your time, and your future. And if you see yourself as a creator, you'll behave differently, even before the results show up. Let's be clear. Most poor people don't just have a money problem, they have an identity problem. They think, I'm not good with money. I'll never be rich. People like me don't make it. It's the system's fault. It's the government. It's my parents. Rich people got lucky. I never had a chance. And every time they repeat these stories, they're reinforcing the chains that keep them broke. Meanwhile, the rich think differently, even before they have money. They say, if no one taught me, I'll teach myself. If it's hard, I'll grow stronger. If the game is rigged, I'll learn how to beat it or build my own. They take ownership, even when it's unfair, even when it's slow, even when it's lonely. Because they understand, blaming feels good, but ownership builds power. Your financial transformation doesn't start with money. It starts with how you see yourself. Do you see yourself as someone who reacts or creates, waits or initiates, obeys the system or redefines it? Because money follows mindset, and mindset flows from identity. Poor people wait for permission. Rich people give themselves permission. They don't wait for a raise. They create income. They don't wait to be saved. They become the answer. They don't wait to be lucky. They build leverage. Let this sink in. No one becomes wealthy while believing they're powerless. The first deposit in your wealth account isn't dollars. It's belief. The belief that you're not stuck, that you're not helpless, that you're capable of more. Not someday, but today. Identity is the operating system of your financial life. If you keep saying, I can't, then no amount of strategy will help you. But when you start saying, I haven't yet, but I'm learning, you open the door to growth. And when you begin to see yourself as a builder, a student, a leader, a multiplier, a protector of your future, then wealth has no choice but to respond. Final takeaway for this part. Poor people wear poverty as identity. Rich people use wealth as responsibility. You don't become rich and then think like a creator. You think like a creator, and that's what eventually makes you rich.
Financial storytelling. The narratives you believe about money are either your chains or your keys. If you want to understand why someone is broke, you don't need to look at their bank account. You need to listen to their story. Because behind every financial situation is a script they've been telling themselves for years. And that script, it either becomes a prison or it becomes permission. Let's be clear, no one just spends money. They act out a belief they've internalized. And poor people have some of the most dangerous money stories, not because they're evil or lazy, but because they've been conditioned by scarcity, fear, shame, and survival. Here are some of the most common stories. I'm just not good with money. People like me don't get rich. Money is the root of all evil. I don't deserve to have more. If I make too much, people will judge me. Having enough is selfish. I should just be grateful. These beliefs sound harmless, but over time, they shape how you earn, save, invest, and even dream. The stories you believe determine what you pursue, what you avoid, what you tolerate, what you allow yourself to receive. Your financial thermostat isn't set by facts, it's set by stories. And the rich? They write different ones. Here's what wealthy people believe. Money is a tool for impact. The more I grow, the more I can give. I deserve abundance because I take responsibility. Wealth is earned, built, and shared, not hoarded. My background doesn't define my ceiling. Money doesn't change who I am. It amplifies what I choose to be. These stories aren't magic spells. They're mindsets. But over time, they shape behavior, and behavior shapes results. Let's go deeper. Two people can make the same income, but one will invest it, the other will escape with it, all because of the story they believe about what money means. That's the invisible battlefield. Not the economy, not your job, but your inner narrative. Here's how to change it. Step 1, identify the story. Ask yourself, what do I believe about rich people? What do I believe about money? What do I believe about myself and money? Write it down, say it out loud, make it real. Step 2, question the story. Ask, where did this belief come from? Is it objectively true or just emotionally familiar? Has this belief helped me or harmed me? Often, these beliefs come from childhood, trauma, media, or society. They aren't your truth. They're just inherited noise. Step 3, rewrite the story. Choose a new belief, one that builds you, not breaks you. Examples: old story, I can't manage money. New story, I'm learning to manage money with confidence and clarity. Old story, I'm not meant to be wealthy. New story, I am building wealth on my terms with integrity and intention. You don't need to believe it 100% today. You just need to plant the seed, nurture it with action, and let it grow stronger than your old fears. Final truth for this part: you don't rise to your goals, you fall to your stories. If your inner story says, "This is the best I can do," you will always prove yourself right. But when your story says, "I'm becoming someone who earns, multiplies, and shares wisely," your entire financial reality begins to shift.
Scarcity versus abundance. Why the poor fear holding money and the rich feel safe keeping it. Have you ever wondered why some people can't seem to keep money even when they earn a decent income? It's not because they're reckless. It's not because they're irresponsible. It's because, deep down, they're afraid to hold it. Yes, afraid, because they operate from a mindset of scarcity. Let's break it down. Scarcity says, if I don't spend this now, I'll lose it. If I save too much, something bad will happen. I've never had money, so I don't know how to keep it. It's better to enjoy it now than risk it disappearing later. These beliefs don't come from nowhere. They're often inherited from generations of struggle where holding on to money was impossible because survival always came first. So when money shows up, the body reacts. Get rid of it. Spend it fast. Feel safe by emptying your account. It doesn't make sense logically, but emotionally, it feels safer because abundance is unfamiliar, and what's unfamiliar feels dangerous. Now flip the lens. Abundance says, there's more where that came from. I can keep money without fear and use it with intention. Money held wisely is power, not pressure. The longer I hold and grow it, the more options I create. The rich aren't just skilled at making money, they're comfortable holding it. They don't feel the urge to spend the moment it hits the account. They don't see money as a hot potato to be thrown away. They see it as a resource to be nurtured and deployed with patience. Here's the truth most don't realize. Your relationship with money is shaped by your capacity to hold it, not just your ability to earn it. If your nervous system associates money with stress, danger, or loss, you will unconsciously push it away. Even if you win the lottery, even if you get a raise, even if your business explodes, you'll find ways to lose it because your identity isn't calibrated for abundance. So how do the rich build that abundance mindset? They train it. Not overnight, not through affirmations alone, but through experience, education, and exposure. They learn how money works. They learn how wealth is built slowly, not emotionally. They learn that holding money is a skill, not a sin. And most of all, they learn that peace doesn't come from spending, it comes from strength. Let this sink in. Poor people seek relief. Rich people seek resilience. One spends to escape pressure, the other holds to build power. That's not a personality difference, that's a perspective shift. If you want to break free from scarcity, start by practicing the feeling of keeping money without needing to get rid of it. Let it sit, let it grow, even if it's just $50, even if it's uncomfortable. You're not just building a savings account, you're building a new nervous system, one that says it's safe to hold money, it's wise to delay spending, it's powerful to wait. Final takeaway for this part. Poor people spend because they don't trust money to stay. Rich people hold because they've trained money to multiply. Scarcity whispers, what if it's gone tomorrow? Abundance replies, what if it grows every day I choose not to spend it? Choose which voice you listen to, because one will keep you chasing, the other will teach you how to keep building no matter what.
Confidence Capital, why financial power comes from clarity, not just income. Let's debunk a common myth right now. You don't need more money to feel secure. You need more control. Because confidence in money doesn't come from how much you earn. It comes from how well you understand, direct, and multiply what you already have. Have you ever met someone who makes a lot of money but still feels anxious every time they check their bank account? That's not a money problem, that's a clarity problem. Because high income without high awareness is just noise, not power. Poor and middle-class people often chase more income, thinking it will finally make them feel safe. But what actually happens? Their spending increases, their lifestyle inflates, their stress multiplies, their confusion deepens, and before they know it, they're earning more but still living paycheck to paycheck. Rich people? They build confidence capital first. What does that mean? It means they've trained themselves to know where every dollar is going, make decisions based on logic, not panic, adjust quickly when circumstances change, delay gratification without fear, and navigate risks with strategy, not emotion. They're not confident because they're lucky. They're confident because they're clear. Confidence capital is built on 3 pillars. 1, clarity. They know how much they earn, how much they spend, where their money flows, what's growing and what's leaking. They don't guess. They measure, they review, they refine. Because clarity reduces anxiety, and anxiety is expensive. 2, control. They don't just wish for better outcomes, they steer them. Budgets are intentional. Investments are planned. Savings are protected. Emergency funds are in place. Temptations are filtered through values, not feelings. This isn't about being rigid, it's about being anchored. 3, capability.
They educate themselves constantly, not to impress others, but to avoid being blind. They understand the rules of money, compound interest, risk management, asset classes, market cycles, taxes, leverage, diversification. They don't outsource their destiny to chance or hope. They become capable enough to choose their outcomes. Now compare that to the poor mindset. I hope this month works out. I'll figure it out when it happens. I'm not good with numbers. It's too complicated. I'll deal with it later. That's not humility. That's helplessness. And helplessness is a luxury you can't afford if you want freedom. Here's the truth. Confidence is not arrogance. It's self-trust built through repeated responsibility. Every time you track your spending, you gain confidence. Every time you say no to an emotional purchase, you gain power. Every time you invest with intention, not impulse, you prove to yourself that you're not just surviving, you're leading. Final takeaway for this part: you don't need more income to feel rich. You need more clarity, control, and capability. Because true financial power isn't in your wallet. It's in your mind, your systems, and your decisions. And the day you feel confident, regardless of how much you earn, is the day you've already started to become wealthy.
Final choice. Are you building your dream or just financing someone else's? At the end of the day, everything you've heard, learned, and reflected on comes down to one simple, inescapable truth. Every dollar you spend is casting a vote. A vote for someone's dream. The question is, whose? When you walk into a store and buy without intention, you're building their empire. When you upgrade your phone every year but never upgrade your knowledge, you're funding their innovation, not your own. When you scroll endlessly, shop impulsively, and spend reactively, you're feeding someone else's strategy, while your own life remains directionless. Let this hit hard. If you don't have a financial plan, you're part of someone else's, and they're counting on it. They're counting on you to stay confused, stay addicted to comfort, stay overwhelmed, keep consuming. Never question why you're not getting ahead, because the more you spend unconsciously, the more they grow strategically. But here's the good news. You can choose to stop being the fuel for someone else's vision and start becoming the architect of your own. You don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to keep repeating the same habits. You don't have to keep watching wealth pass you by. All it takes is one shift, not in income, but in intention. Ask yourself now, honestly, am I building something of my own, or am I financing everyone else's dreams with my distractions? Is my money being used to create, compound, and elevate, or is it being drained, scattered, and forgotten? Because wealth is not reserved for the lucky. It's reserved for the intentional. Here's what the wealthy do differently. They spend with strategy. They invest with purpose. They delay what feels good now for what feels powerful later. They create systems that work harder than they ever could. And most of all, they own their direction. They don't just buy things. They build freedom. Final truth for this entire journey. Poor people earn to spend. Rich people earn to invest. But the wisest earn to liberate their time, to liberate their energy, to liberate their families, to liberate others. This isn't just about money. This is about legacy, about breaking patterns, about choosing to lead instead of follow. So the question is no longer, can I be rich? The real question is, will I continue funding someone else's life, or will I finally start designing my own? The answer? It begins with your next dollar, and the choice is yours.